right. Well, I have another hot take for us today, and that is that there is a huge divide between freelance workers and agency workers. And sometimes it seems like some people work really well with an agency and others should be out on their own, lone wolf in it.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So what were some of the highlights in that for you both?
I think for me, like thinking back to when I was freelancing full out and even working with Peter and Rob freelancing, the highlights for me were the fact that you could, the ruler of your own domain, right? You can come and go as you please. You can set your own hours. You can basically kind of work from wherever you want. It just, the scheduling was a little more freeing. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of like staunchy rules to keep you, you know, kind of stuck in the weeds. It was just a lot more freeing. So I loved being able to like call up two of my buddies, powwow about whatever the project was, and then like, all right, hey, we're all gonna take a step back. We're gonna get off the call. We're gonna do our own research and our own sketching or ideation or whatever it was for the pieces of the project we had, and then come back and chat through that. And it was freeing. That was the best part of freelance. Literally, is that you're freed up to not be stuck chained to a desk working on the exact same thing every single day, every single hour. It was freedom about that. So I think for me, that was the biggest thing. Working with people that I love was the second best thing about it. When you have a good rapport with folks, or they're like family to you and you're working with them on everything, there's more honesty there on, what you're doing, how you could do it better, how we each could, help one another through the project, but also you just want each other to succeed. So there's nothing but let's all do this and let's grind it out together. So there's that mindset was something else I really enjoyed. And then it was always nice to have the differentiation of client types, client projects. It was always something new. It wasn't like, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but it wasn't like sitting on one brand doing the same thing with the same color palette, with the same mascot, with the same whatever for 8 hours a day, all day, every day. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's just, there's something about that, having that flexibility of client and style and whatever the project is, that was really nice. So I think those three things are probably the things that really,
Even as opposed to working in-house at a company that you're only working on their stuff, not like
correct.
there's multiple projects, multiple clients.
Yeah. How about you?
I have not had much experience in the freelance world. Again, I'm kind of the newbie here in this industry, but I think what's interesting is some of the things that you highlighted as your favorite parts are the parts that stressed me out the most about being freelance. The freedom of the schedule felt really nice in the beginning, and then it felt really overwhelming trying to differentiate between work and life, because it just had the ability to bleed over so much
Oh yeah.
that it became
it can.
overwhelming to stop creating at the end of the day, or to start creating for something that wasn't going to produce a paycheck.
Sure. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Mike mentioned though is a little unique to maybe some. I know a lot of freelancers that do work this way, but like the way that we used to work, and granted this was 10 years ago now, was like we operated like a cohort or a mini agency together. So it wasn't I'm on my own doing my own thing and Mike's on his own doing his own thing. Like we just shared every project that any of us landed and worked on them together. And so it had more of that feel. I think some of the things that, like you said, Lexi, stressed you out are really important to talk about in terms of, I know we're talking right now about as an individual, as a designer, should I be a freelancer or should I join an agency or an in-house team or something like that? And another discussion is also, as a company, do you hire a freelancer? Do you hire an agency? That's maybe a topic for another day. But I think one of the things that, can be really challenging as well. Like Mike hit a lot of the pros. It's total freedom in your schedule. You get to work on whatever. You have the say as to whether or not you take on this project or don't take on this project. But I think one of the most common things that I hear from folks is the stress of like, where's my next project coming from? And
Yeah.
you're not just a designer anymore. You are a business owner. You need to manage and operate a business and entity. And now you're handling schedule, project management, finances. Like, you have to wear all of the hats solely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that can be really stressful. That's usually the thing that I want to say from folks I talk to is the biggest deciding factor of whether or not they're on their own versus working somewhere. I want to say, honestly, really and truly, I personally feel as though you have just as much job security working at an agency or an in-house team as you do for yourself. I know working for yourself can feel really scary, but you are in full control of your future. Your success, you're counting on, what should be the hardest working person that you know of yourself to succeed or fail, versus working at a company, no matter how big or small. Your job to some extent is in the hands of somebody else that, is going to decide whether or not you stay or leave, or if they're not able to get enough work coming in, you may lose your job as well. I mean, Mike and I have been laid off many a times, and it happens. It's scary and it sucks, but it's a reality. So I know that's a big fear, but I always felt myself that I was just as secure, maybe if not even more so, on my own than being somewhere. However, I want to say this really largely depends on where you are at in your career. Some of this might spill into our last topic of conversation, but I know, for example, it comes down to how much work are you pulling in? How much do people know about you? Is your work out there, etc.? And that's a really important one, because when I met Mike, I mean, this is honestly probably getting closer to like 12 years ago. I was really early on in my career. I was not at all plugged in with the creative community yet. My portfolio was not anything. And so, like, was I talented? Yeah, sure. But I was not getting work coming in naturally. And honestly, when I went back into going to go work at an agency, the biggest deciding factor of that was actually, and I remember sitting down talking to Mike about this, is I was like, dude, I'm kind of scared because I feel like my income and livelihood is in your hands, because I was not the one bringing in projects for our group to work on. It was largely and primarily solely Mike, because Mike had the reputation and work and portfolio. And so it was like, well, shoot, what if things slow down for Mike? Now I'm in trouble. And so I wanted to jump back into the agency space, get, immersed in projects, work with some bigger name clients and whatnot. And that was a huge help and success in my career, to be honest.
For sure.
But yeah, I was really scared of like, work wasn't coming in through me. And if it was really, really small stuff. So I think people tend to have a lot more success freelancing in the later years of their career. I was just chatting with a friend the other day who they're freelancing right now, and they were like, Peter, this isn't any ego or anything, but like, I've done a lot of cool stuff in my career, and I'm slammed with work because I've built great relationships over the years. Okay. My work is out there, and I'm getting hired for stuff. Versus, folks that are fresh out of school, a couple years in your career, you're going to find freelancing very, very difficult.
Unless you have the most stellar portfolio on the planet. Like, your work is like banging. You're already got 1 million followers on all your socials because your work is that good. Then okay, that's a special case. But I think if we're giving advice to younger designers for just this one topic, get your feet wet in all the ways you can before book freelance last. If that's what you want to, if that's your end game, great. But go work for a Fortune 500 company. Go work for, in-house somewhere at a mid-sized company. Go work for a mom and pop agency. Go work for a larger agency. Do all of those things and boost your arsenal. Like, gather all those tools from all those different aspects of different types of jobs, and then decide which one you like best. And if it's none of them and freelance is still your goal, then you're in a place to where your portfolio has been growing over the years with all these different company types, and you've tried it, right? Though I think that's great advice to give to a younger person who's trying to figure it out, because they're gonna gain knowledge from every one of those aspects. Does that make sense?
And that goes back to what we talked about last time, which if you haven't listened to our last episode, this is a great time to go back and listen to, talking about networking and connections and how important that is in this industry, especially because
Those
you
relationships.
are, like you said, if you're fresh and you have no one around you that can vouch for you, that makes it a lot harder to get those clients when you have to walk in and kind of speak for yourself rather than, hey, so and so has a gig that they're not taking on, but they're going to pass it on to you because it really fits your style or what you're good at. And that's going to help not only your knowledge base grow with that, those connections, that network, but it's also going to help your success and finances grow if you're getting clients regularly.
How many times have we done that, Peter?
Oh, 100%.
How many? We just to pass it back and forth.
Well, pass about. I mean, yeah, it's get to know people. It's do right by people. Just be helpful. And one of my favorite stories about that actually involves Rob.
Yep.
Who was my partner here at Heyo, and we'll have on soon. He's on the development side of the house. So I think this was actually the very first year that Rob joined us at Creative South, because when we all started working together, Rob started helping, develop the Creative South websites in the past and whatnot. So he shows up, he's just hanging out, being Rob, telling, the classic Rob stories. But I remember Real Thread, who's one of our
Yeah.
and favorite sponsors over at Creative South. They were having some issues with their website. So Rob jumps in and just drops like everything. Like, okay, cool. Conference is going on. Let me just sit down here and help you guys. And so he's working for hours just helping. This was not put me on the clock, I'm going to bill you or whatnot. It was just, let's figure this out. Let's, as Rob would probably say, this is Mickey Mouse. Let's go through this.
Yeah.
He's going through the spaghetti code of whatever nonsense was developed in there. And I think he spent almost like 2 days working through it with them and figuring out what was going wrong with their site and fixing it. Well, I don't know, a week later, he gets a call from, I think it was Jordan at the time.
Yeah.
And goes, hey man, we're going to rebuild the whole website. You're developing it. And he landed that project. It was one of his biggest projects at that time. He rebuilt the whole Real Thread website. And it's that kind of thing that it was just out of the goodness, kindness of his heart. He had no ulterior motives to this. It was just, I want to be a good person, help these guys out, be a team player with stuff and just get to know some people, and ended up being a huge project for him. So, really cool to see stuff like that happen.
Something that I'm getting from this conversation that I think is overlooked a lot is just because you are freelancing does not make you an island.
Correct.
You need people at any place, whether you're freelancing, whether you're in-house designer, whether you're at an agency, you need people, and people need you. People need the skills that you have and what you bring to the table. So if you're listening or watching and your fear is that I can't freelance, I'll be alone all the time, I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. Now, obviously, I'm a little biased because I love Heyo. I love working here, and I love that I get to clock in every day knowing that I have people on my team and they're going to be there Monday through Friday with me. But I think that story about Rob really speaks to, you don't have to be a loner just because you're freelancing or you're not working with people in an agency type setting.
Well, 100%. I want to chat about the loner thing, because I think that's another thing that can be overlooked. Is I remember I really struggled with this my first couple years freelancing, and that's just the mental health aspect too of just working alone. I noticed I'm a pretty typically cheery person. I don't luckily struggle with depression or anything like that, and I found myself it was a pattern. About every 6 months I would randomly get super depressed, and I had a week where it was I would just want to stay in bed. I don't want to do anything. It was really, really bizarre. And I realized it was this because I work alone. I don't really interact with people outside of, maybe 1 or 2 people I'm collaborating with or something, but I don't have any kind of sense of real community or, just ability to see and hang out. And that's why even for us, like we don't necessarily meet as a team every day because things run really smooth. We don't have a ton to talk about, but it's important to meet a couple times a week just to get FaceTime and feel connected to people. And once I figured that out, I stopped having, like, I haven't had that depression cycle or anything. And that was really important. But yeah, you can quickly find yourself like in a cave or in a silo.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think we're seeing, remote work in general. There's so many benefits to being able to work from your home, not have to go into an office every day, but I think you have to be aware of that mental health aspect. I know for me, one of my 2025 goals is I need to go outside every day, because if I don't, I will fall into a cycle. Yes, touch some grass, go out there, just be a lizard for 5 minutes in the sun is what I say. I like to lizard. But, go out 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes, take a walk, go get a coffee at a shop and like see other humans being humans, because it is easy to fall into that cycle.
And so,
for sure.
On that note, a tip for freelancers, especially young freelancers: just because you freelance and you have a desk and you've got your home office and your rad setup at home, like, that's awesome. Have that. But like, there's something about getting out in the community once or twice a week, find that coffee shop you love, take your laptop, work from there all day. There's two things that does. One, it puts you around people. You're going to start to meet people in your community. You're going to start making friends out in your community. But people are going to notice that, that guy at the coffee shop's a designer. Yeah, I got a project that comes up. Let me go holler at him see if he's there. Like, there's gonna be times where people start to notice you in the community and what you do, to where you're gonna start getting work come in from that. I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in a coffee shop where I'm just plugging away on the client work when I was freelancing full time, and so and so from the town would come in and be like, "Oh, hey, it's good to see you. Hey, I've been meaning to get up with you. I got a project I got for you. Let's chat next week. We'll do coffee or something." Like, get out in your community, be seen, but also see others, right? Like it goes both ways. So, like, don't always have to work at your office at your house.
I also want to give advice to people that I think, especially for those younger, getting started, I really don't recommend you freelance early on. Even if you are that person that's just stupidly talented, has all the followers or whatever, I really recommend, and I wish more people would go get an in-house job somewhere. And I'm going to recommend even more specifically than just go work at a company, go work at an agency. And the reason I say that is the agency is really that model where and don't get me wrong, there's the very toxic #agency life, super chaotic fire drills that exists as well. But in an agency environment, you get the experience of working on a wider variety of stuff. Like Mike said, it's all different clients, all different industries, but it's also getting to observe and see all the different hats or roles that you're going to have to wear. Because, oftentimes people think of design, it's just, or a freelance, like, I just need to make cool stuff and it's easy. But yeah, but you also need to understand business. You need to understand how to do project management. You need to understand how to talk to clients. You need to understand how to land clients, how to pay your taxes, how to do sales, how to do all these different things. And those are my skill sets that you're going to naturally have. Yeah. So go see how some of that works. Like, I learned a ton coming up and just seeing, what does a good creative director look like? I honestly learned more from some really bad creative directors that I had, and went, I never want to be like that. So I'm gonna make sure I don't, explain things this way or whatever. So go have that experience. If you just are freelancing, you could do great work, but you don't learn how to really work and, collaborate with others the same way, or how to do all that. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And sometimes it's just purely not the right fit for some people, because they are not great communicators with clients and not able to sell themselves well. But if you put them on a team, they're going to do amazing, amazing work. So it is about finding out what's right for you, but it's learn the right way and go about that. I think there's a lot of huge perks, again, along all of those lines of working in that team environment where, all of us here do different things. I can make a logo. I know how to do it. I have the technical skill set, but that's not what I do. I'm a product designer at trade. So I'm going to be great at that portion of a project, but now I can collaborate with Mike, or, we can service so many more clients by doing these multiple things and being that, one-stop shop for them in some regard, versus I'm only going to get hired for the thing that I'm specifically good at. And I can bring in, for sure, contractors and partners to work on that. I mean, we do that here at Heyo. If there's something that we don't do that's not in our wheelhouse, we'll let a client know that's not something we do, but hey, I've got a list of people that I'm going to really recommend for you, and we'll help
We'll get it squared up. Yep.
Oversee it and whatnot. But I wish people would start there. I think you would see a lot of people grow to be stronger designers. You can do 4 years of growth in a year or two working, with a team somewhere, rather than just like
1,000%. 1,000%. I've grown so much more being in this environment because we are doing so many different types of projects, and I'm working with different types of designers and different types of personalities.
Yes, and that's a huge one. People overlook.
Huge.
If you can't interact with someone who's different than you because you've never had that experience, I mean, I could think of 3 people on our team that their sense of humor is different than mine. The way that they might approach a project is different than me. And we work great together because we've had those conversations and figured that out. And our strengths can now play to each other.
Correct.
Instead of, if you're just on your own and you never have that experience, you might just be like, oh, well, that person's this way and I don't want to, like it's.
Yep.
Totally.
It opens up so many doors.
It's like you said, it's not just personalities of maybe your teammates. It's also different types of clients. Have you worked with somebody that is, let's be real, a giant pain in the ass to work with? You need to know how to handle that. And you need to know how to be professional, how to keep your cool. And so being able to see much more seasoned individuals, how they handle it. Like I pop into meetings every once in a while with our team, one, so I can help coach and stuff to an extent, but I can still learn from people. I can still hop in there and be like, whoa, that was so smooth how they handled that. That was great. I'm going to incorporate that into what I do. So you want to be that fly on a wall often and see, how do you talk to clients? How do you handle different personalities of clients? With team members, you learn really quickly, especially when you begin getting into like leadership roles, even just working with a peer. How do I communicate with different people to get the same thing? I can tell one person, hey, that sucks. Don't do that. Do this. I could tell another person like, hey, I want this to be blue. So in order for me to do that, I have to say, okay, I like what's going on here, but could we do a side by side? Could I see it in red and could I also see it in blue so we can take a look at this together and make a decision? I'm telling you, I want it to be blue, but I have to do that and know your love languages and how to communicate that. And I remember Rob was telling someone that recently, he's like, I could tell Peter, like, this looks like crap. We did change it. And I'm not going to care. That doesn't hurt me. That doesn't offend me. I'll be like, all right, cool. How are we going to go about this? But there are people that you could not speak to that way. And you've got to know all those different personalities, how to identify and how to communicate that way. So it's great just exposure to those things and know how to do that. It's vital.
Yeah. Oof. It also gives you the ability to up your skill set, like the actual design skill set for whatever role you play in the agency. Because if you're on a team that's doing the same kind of work, you're working on a project together, their skill set and your skill set are completely different. The whole point is that your skill set can be leveled up by working with your teammate to see how they do something versus how you do it. So you have the ability to not only grow with your personalities and the way you work with people, but also level that skill set up while you're in that agency and pull from all the people around you that do what they do, learn something from a different team, even a different skill set from a different team to pad your arsenal. So if you don't like working with the agency and you decide to go, you're leaving with a much bigger arsenal base, much bigger knowledge base than you did when you started, or keep you growing and love working there. Like it could go both ways.
I mean, that's why we rotate the squads that work together here at Heyo. We usually rotate those teams every 6 months or so because, if Lexi and I are teammates and we're working on things, great. It gives us some time to work together, learn, grow, etc. But then now I want to work with Mike, so I get time with him and see what he's doing and what can I take out of his workflows and his styles. And same thing, then he can learn from me. And so it's it's really important to do that stuff. And again, I think so many people often just skip over that or lose that life experience, and it's really valuable. Probably
It is.
the majority of the best designers that I've seen is not a hard rule or anything, but they all have that original experience and background of kind of being exposed to all that stuff. When I see people, particularly more often than not, some designers that started off working, say, like in-house at a bigger company. I'm talking like the Fortune 500, et cetera. I've noticed they also tend to struggle on the agency side because they aren't used to working on multiple things. And I mean, we're pretty not your typical agency. Like, we have 18 projects that I'm on all at once. We have two, but like, they work at a much slower pace. They only know how to operate one way. They only know how to work with certain types of people. And I've seen that more often than not be kind of a trend or a challenge. I think those that started off with, hey, maybe the first 5 years of my career, I worked in an agency environment. Those have tended to be the strongest designers. And those are also the ones that I've seen be the most successful freelancers later on in their careers.
I think working under someone else as well is a really important thing. I think if you just think that your stuff don't stink and you have this big ego, that also creates problems for you down the line, which brings us to our next hot take that I'm very excited to talk about, because Peter actually tweeted this out the other day, and I'm pretty sure my jaw was actually on the floor. I had to pick it up.
Wasn't that spicy?
No, but it was because I opened up Twitter for the first time in who knows how long. And the first thing I see is my boss and coworker be like, hot take. And I'm like, oh, this should be good. Can I just quote what you tweeted?
Here we go.
I wish more designers would continue focusing on their craft rather than try to appear as thought leaders / mentors when they aren't ready and experienced enough yet.
Stand by it.
Get it. I said what I said.
So I think something that I see often is, and some of it's in today's day and age, or some of it, and I mean that in like the social marketing aspect. People want to be seen as the experts or whatnot. But it kind of came originally perusing through some of the applications that we were getting, and I'm reading through all of them as we're doing interviews and stuff right now. And I saw in a couple of, hey, I'm really big I'm a coach on ADP list. I mentor a lot of designers on there or whatnot. And then I go and pull up the portfolio and I'm going, this work needs a lot of work. And, I'm catching immediately errors in your work. I'm seeing things misaligned. I'm seeing mock-ups where, the time is falling off of the top. Or like, I'm very eagle-eyed when I look at portfolios. I look for that kind of stuff because I don't want to be correcting your mistakes during reviews and critique. I want to be, how do we make this a little bit better? How do we push it to the next level? So if I have to stop and correct everything, that's a different problem. I'm looking for that kind of stuff. And I've seen this a lot over the years where people want to be perceived, understandably, as experts. But then you go look at the work, you look at the actual experience. And, they're the people that I was head of design when I graduated from my first job in college, or I was the creative director at my own freelance company. And it's like, okay, were you directing people? Did you have folks under you? No, I just worked by myself. Okay, let's bring this into some reality here. But
Yeah.
I think it's also gotten even worse and more dangerous, going back to AI a little bit, where people can use AI to just generate the thought leadership stuff, or, the clickbait of things. Or I've seen a lot where, folks regurgitate a lot of the information that they get online from the thought leaders or gurus or whatever. And the reality is that they haven't done it yet. And so it's great to be able to repeat what you've heard or said, but have you put it in practice? Do you have the work to back it up or whatnot? And I just see that so often. And I remember I had another friend that I shared this with them a couple years back. I gave them this advice because I was reviewing their portfolio, and I kind of had this moment and went, I'm being way too kind to you because you're my friend. And I need to just give you the reality of what I'm looking at here and have some like hard truth to this, because that's what's actually going to be helpful. And I remember they were putting in so much time every week. I think it was like 20 hours a week mentoring, on, I think it was ADP list at the time, and, other things, and working to, market themselves, and all this external stuff to be seen as the expert. And I'm like, your work needs a lot of work right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to encourage you to stop, put that all on pause, and reallocate those 20 hours to work on yourself, work on your own craft. Because right now, to a real trained eye, if they pause and really take a look at you, they're going to go, I don't totally know what they're talking about, or they're not there yet, and like write you off, versus prove it, show it, do it. And
Great advice.
I just see that a lot nowadays. You see a lot of buzzwords, and you see this stuff online. Actually, there's a guy, I haven't met him personally. We've chatted a little bit in like LinkedIn DMs. His name's Andrew Rice. And he posted something similar just a couple hours ago and said, some folks do the work, others just talk about the work. And somehow a third group, those who just read about the work, have entered the chat. They've mastered the lingo, collected frameworks like Pokemon cards, and can recite the design thinking process in their sleep, but put them in the trenches and they're lost. These same folks end up in hiring panels deciding who's qualified, while the ones who can actually design and build circles around them and ship in 1/16th the time get stuck outside the gates. We don't have a talent shortage. We have a talent bottleneck. And I loved that. I was like, dude, I could not agree more with this.
Yes.
Because
Fire
I've
emojis.
seen this as well, where I'm going to bring up two main things I've seen before. I'll be really careful so I don't let anybody think they know who these people are, but because I'm not here to try to throw shade. I just want to give real world examples. But like, I've seen the heads of design be in a room where I picked up immediately the BS all over the floor. Like, I can hear the buzzwords and know, and then ask a couple questions and go, you have no idea what you're talking about, but you know what you're supposed to be talking about or supposed to say. And so this might sound really good to like a board of directors or something, but like, you don't get this. And I've seen those individuals. And the thing is that once they hit that stage, and I think they made a comment about this too, of like, they're head of design somewhere. So they're going to get another job as head of design somewhere else, but they're not ready for it. I've also seen designers who chase titles. And so they get offered a title somewhere of, head of design, head of product, or whatever the things are. And they are not ready to manage people, and have not, again, put in the work, had the experience to really be there. And I've actually had friends reach out to me and tell me before, hey, like, what are your thoughts on this person? Or, do you know them, or whatnot, or tell me, I turned down the job here because this person should not be in this seat. They are not ready for this. And I don't want to work somewhere where my manager and supervisor is not qualified to do the job. But they got there because, again, they talk about it online, or, maybe they just got lucky to have an opportunity, and great for them. But like, again, I go back to put in the time, pay your dues, really get the experience. And I remember the first time I got promoted to be a creative director somewhere, it was awesome because everyone was already looking to me in that role at that company before I got the title or the promotion. It was this obvious, like, yeah, of course Peter's a good fit for this. It wasn't this like unlucky or unwarranted, unearned thing. I was doing the job. I showed everybody there, and everyone was really stoked when it was official, because I was there. I knew what I was doing,
It made sense.
But I see this so often. So just, I wish people would just shut up and do the work. And I know this is going to bite me at some point, because I know that the two of you guys are going to help Rob and I have a little bit more online presence and stuff. But I'm generally a pretty, like, I'm dark online. I use social media in the minimal sense, as little as I have to for work, because I'm busy doing the work. And
Sure.
I usually
doing it.
Yeah, I usually pick up on and see that those that are online talking about the work more often, or making it look like they're really busy and whatnot are the folks that aren't. And they're out there hustling and grinding and hitting the pavement as they should, because they're not booked. They're not doing work right now. So they're really active. And, because it's one of those, how are you on and active for 20 hours a week on social media, and yet you're bragging that, your full capacity or whatever. You're hitting me up on the side asking for projects because you need work right now. So like that's usually my assumption. The busier you are online, the less busy I think you are actually doing the work. And generally, the best doers are the people that I just don't see online. They're just building in the background. And those are the people I usually see who are truly the most successful from a business and financial standpoint. And a lot of people we think are really successful are grinding it out to stay alive. That's my hot take.
I think it has gotten even worse as social media influencer culture gets bigger. Now you can be a design influencer and you can just talk about design, right? Like you said, without actually doing or showing any work. You can just be the face behind, oh yeah, I'm a designer or I'm a developer. And I have come across multiple pages where I'm trying to find work that they actually did because they're talking about all this work that they do. And I don't have anything posted anywhere. So if I don't even know what your stuff looks like, why am I trusting you to tell me how to do it?
Oh, preach, because like I have seen the influencers that do the work, that can talk about it and actually show you they can do it and do it live in front of, their audience, get blasted by people on their technique, on their whatever, on their, their thought, the way that they word things. However, I've seen them get blasted to the ends of the earth on social media by people who, if you go look at them, their profiles are on private. None of their work's out there. You can't even find their work. So like, you're going to talk trash about a designer who is doing it, showing it, teaching it. Yet, who are you to say that when you don't even show your own work? Like, show your work. If you're that good and you know all the answers, then show us your work.
I think, going back to what you said before, that like the influencer side, I've had that a couple times where I've had conversations with people, because, I've had the times where, hey, we need an extra hand on things. We need that contractor to come in because we're overloaded with work or something. So I'll reach out to that brand designer, strategist, product designer, web designer. Again, I'm going to keep this super, super vague, and have a chat with them because I think we could use them to help out on stuff. And from all perceptions online, you would think they are truly an expert at it. And I can tell in 60 seconds of meeting with that person, they have no clue what they're actually doing. It's basically playing a game of Mad Libs where they're just following a script, filling in, the couple of missing words along the way. But when you challenge and ask them like, well, why did you do that? Or why is that important? Or whatnot, they fumble the bag so hard and just don't know. And,
Fumble the bag.
But
it's a bummer to see.
I don't know. They don't say, oh, hey, I don't work at that thing. Because that's it's a totally different personality, right? If you come in and say, hey, I really want to do this work, I don't know the answer to the question that you're asking me, but I would love to learn, or I would love to find out so that I can serve this team or this project.
I agree with everything you just said. But I mean it at like another level where it's like you are pretending to know what you're talking about, or you think because you've been taught the buzzwords to say or the script to follow.
Yeah.
But
there's no proof
you just
pudding.
Rogue, like you don't know how to handle this situation. Yes, that's a big thing. And I've learned over the years, I can identify immediately when seeing whether it's a certain process of things. I know exactly who taught you and where it came from. And if I see that, I'm no longer interested in working together. Like, because I've seen that pattern enough times. So yeah, I just going back, I really wish people would just put their heads down, really learn, grow. And, I think I get the appeal of I have to be seen as the expert in order to land work and this and that. But I think that goes back to maybe, I don't know if we glorify it on social media of, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be a successful, freelancer or run a business or whatever. And you're going to make all this money. And so like, we think that might be the track to success. And so therefore I have to be the guru. I have to be this expert, this and that, versus just show up and do the work. And that's why there's certain, as we talk about influencers, I also want to say the pros of like, help me out. Cause I just know him by his like moniker more than the full name, Dristy. Like I was on TikTok the other night. I saw his stuff,
Richard,
and I do not follow design people on TikTok. Yeah. That's my, like,
I love his work.
My personal interests. Give me video games, funny couples humor, random
Fishing.
stuff. Like that's my escape. He's the first person. Yeah. Fishing. Give me all the fly fishing you can handle and throw at me. But I followed him the other day because I loved, he was doing his videos. I've seen him on Instagram.
His content's awesome
too. But it's like, I see you do the work. I see that you understand this. Like, I'm so excited to see him again. I know we met him at Into the Woods, and he's coming out to Creative South. I'm so pumped for that because that dude is fire. I see his work in Shields all the time with
all day.
Trails Code,
dirty,
hands, clean money,
dirty hands. Yeah,
I love it. But I get to see that he knows what he's talking about. He's not just showing other people's work and breaking it down. He's not just hitting buzzwords or making some funny content. I'm going to show you. And so that's the kind of thing. I want to see the work. I want to see the portfolio. That's
because when you see that stuff,
so again,
when you see that stuff, you can tell, can they problem solve? Like, can they find the solution to the client's problem, like in their work? Like if they can show you how they did it, show you the work, show you how they did it, show you their process, it gives you a small glimpse of problem solving and how that they're going to be a good fit for this particular client or not.
100%. And again, it's a double-edged sword. You got to market yourself. You got to be out there, but at the same time, go do the work, go put it in. And I think more often than not, that's the bigger payoff. Because I see so many people, they can talk the talk. It's just not being able to walk the walk and really service things, the right way, do the right work, know how to interact with people, clients, all that stuff. So I wish we'd see less thought leadership, LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts and whatnot, and just bunker down and let me see the work. That's the stuff that stands out.
That's it. That's all next week. I'm just showing thought leadership and just fluff next week. That's my goal, just to mess with you.
I can grow your SEO in 60 seconds or less.
Yeah. I love it was Jocelyn Riza does your great trolling. What is it here? Josh Riza. Because he'll do stuff on LinkedIn that, man, it does it on Twitter stuff too. I mean, we love Josh. We've known him for years, but
his posts are just like fun.
Just
he can poke fun in the right kind of way.
Oh, it's great.
But I want to say this, Josh, if you're listening,
but
I love Chomp Brand. I love it. I wish you would make clothes for big people. Oh, there's some big folk sizes in there for once in a while. Like, I'll buy your stuff, but it needs to fit me. I'm going to throw that out there. So if you hear this, make me some 4XL and I'll buy them from you. Okay. Buy Chomp Brand.
Tag Josh in the comments.
Yes.
Not, but like Josh, I'm looking through a couple of his posts, and some of these hit multiple things we talked about today. Of like, you think we can't tell your sales email was written and or edited by AI, but we can. It's devaluing my trust in your organization. Be normal. Be a person. He did a great troll of one.
Hot take. I hate a sales email. I think more than anything. I don't open them. I unsubscribe all the time from mailing lists that I sign up for because it feels like he just said, like, it feels like you put in, how do I talk to a person about this thing that I'm trying to sell in a way that doesn't feel like I'm trying to sell them something? You put that into ChatGPT or whatever, and it spits out this email, and that's what you send me. And you add 3 little emojis in the subject line, and I'm done. I don't want it. My inbox, I want it clear. No, I don't like it.
So get back to
I found the post I was looking for Josh. Last week, my dog suffered a serious injury to 2 of his vertebrae. Here's what it taught me about B2B SaaS. Like, I love it because that's the crap that we see of these like long LinkedIn posts of like, let me tell you about this thing. I love him poking fun at this stuff. And Josh, dude, I miss you. We got to get him out at Creative South again.
I asked him. I hope he
I'm gonna start
just
writing some of those.
do work.
see if he can come in this year. It'll be awesome.
My wallet can't take another hit from buying all the chop stuff.
Well, I'm
It's
buying
like
from Sean.
probably a third of my closet.
That's so good.
But he's a great example of just he shows up and does the work. You've got all of it. I can see it. You've done the things. Like that's the key here is do it, show it, have the portfolio. I know Kelly was asking me, and Mike, I got to talk to you about this, of like just doing a free workshop at Creative South maybe next year. What do people get? A couple of us that are hiring managers places, what are we actually looking for in portfolios? Like how do we
That's so good.
see it and what?
That's a great
Great
work.
Yeah, I see a lot of portfolios, and there's certain things that we look for, and as we've talked about before, like I can tell in a couple of seconds if immediately does this meet the level or whatnot. But I've been chatting a lot more with clients, with other people doing hiring.
Yeah.
And, there's some good insights there, and it's not a charge workshop. Just come in, hang out maybe the day before the
I like that a lot.
I
mean, honestly, we're doing that.
Let's just chat with people about it.
I think that's a great idea for a workshop. We're doing something for students, not the same for students, but we're doing something for students about like what your portfolio should look like and how you should, like, how to help get you a job in the industry and stuff like that. But we're having industry professionals come in and talk to these kids who are currently in school. So doing something like that for across the board is a free, like, hey, just sit in and listen. It's going to be at X time, whatever. It is open to all attendees. Like, I think it's an amazing topic. I think it'll go over real well.
Yeah, it's just it's helping people out because I've seen folks too that definitely like might undersell themselves, or after you get to know them in a different setting and you're like, dude, your work is so much better than what's online right now. Like, we got to fix this, or it's the way it's being presented, or oftentimes it's there's 10 projects. If we had to rate everything 1 through 10, what's the average score? Well, if you pulled out your 3 weakest project, your score just went up. Like, show less work.
You did that for me one year, remember?
But yeah, we used to do that for each other all the time. It'd be like, hey, let's review kind of annually. Like, what do we pull away?
And it made it for a stronger
portfolio review is
portfolio.
Well, and having someone else come in with a fresh set of eyes it's going to make you a better designer, because when you're up this close to it, it's hard sometimes to see like, oh no, this is actually hindering my portfolio. And I know for me, like when I got hired at Hale, I was like, I need to delete everything I've ever made off.
Well, we started like we were mentoring before you came on, because again, we talked about this in the first episode. It was just this like, we just really love Lexi. We got to find a way to get her here. So we're like, let's mentor you. And I remember talking about that. We started going over, some of the fundamentals of like I was eagle-eyeing all the little details of like, I can tell the alignment's a little off, or the typography. So like, yeah, but look at it now. When was the last time in the last, you've been here for about a year? I think literally a year, like this month, or it was last week.
Yeah.
When was the last time in the last 11 months I've corrected anything or found a mistake in your work? Because like we ingrain that in you right away, and you just don't make those mistakes. So when we're looking at stuff, it's like, hey, it might look better if we swap this graphic or we change this or that. We're not fixing your work anymore.
And that's, again, going back to when you have honest feedback and you take it, and you, in the words of K-Dot, sit down, be humble, you're going to grow so much more. I feel...
Just agree with her. You don't know what the reference is either. Just agree with her.
Here.
I know. I was like, Mark and I are looking at each other like,
what your hands bad? Sure.
Okay. Kendrick Lamar is a rapper.
Oh, is that what he... Okay, I know Kendrick Lamar. I've never heard K-Dot.
I never heard of him called
K-Dot? Yeah, that's what they call him. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
No,
That's a social media clip for my millennial and Gen Z friends. That's stand. But yeah, I mean, the growth just from hearing feedback, taking it to heart, and doing the work. Just do the work, guys. Just do it.
Period.
But that was the
Period.
thing. You put in the time early when we started mentoring before you came in here, and you were showing up, putting in that effort. I remember one of the things we were most impressed about you. You were like, okay, I have this opportunity to be mentored by these people. I want to make the most of this. You left your job, got another part-time job. So that way it was like, okay, I can survive on this. I want to have all the time I need to make the most of this opportunity. And we were like, oh, shoot.
Who does
serious? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to hire her eventually, like before she even starts the part-time job where they train her and put in all the effort. We're like, let's just get her.
Yeah.
We need to scoop her now. And like, that was the thing. You came
So
in,
glad we
put in the work, you put in that effort, and you rose to that occasion, and you're killing it. And, you know, that's the thing. I wish we would see more people have that kind of attitude and approach. And like we talked about, maybe the first episode too, of like, go find an apprenticeship. Go literally, like, I would not go to design school again. I would pay somebody and say, pull up a chair next to you for 6 months and learn from you. I wish more people would really do that, because man, people would really become much better designers than a lot of the design programs. I know we see a lot of
for sure
from like Victor's kids out of UCF and some other schools, but yeah, that's the way to go.
And that's the thing, is you can learn these skills. It's the skill part you can learn, even if it feels daunting. And I know for me, it really did. And I know one of the things that we've talked about is like, it would be so cool to have, you know, someone come in onto the podcast and say, you know, let's demystify this process for you, right? These skills can be learned, they can be broken down, but you've got to get in there and you've got to do the work. And so hopefully, if you're listening or you're watching and maybe you are out there going, I don't have these skills yet, go find some people, go talk to them, hit us up at Team Heyo. We're on social media. I know there's tons of designers out there that would love, proper designers out there who would love to mentor you and say, hey, like, let's make you better. But you've got to be willing to put yourself out there, do the work. And like Strick Lamar said, sit down and be humble.
I thought you were going to troll us and instead just go like, mustard.
Yeah.
Sit on the beat. Well, I think we have some really great little nuggets of advice in here. Hopefully, if you are listening or watching, you are coming along with us as we have these little fireside chats. We're looking forward to having even more. Stay tuned for the next episode. It sounds like we're going to be talking about redefining failure, which I think is important at every stage in every industry. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time on Contrast.
Thanks all.
See you guys.